Hello, everyone. This is Dora Smith, and you're listening to Engineering the Future Workforce by Siemens. On this podcast, we explore emerging and best practices that are empowering the next generation of talent. The series showcases conversations with leading voices from academia and industry who are committed to improving learners' digital skill set and mindset to accelerate innovation. Subscribe wherever you do podcasts. Hello, in this episode, we explore the Siemens and Sony Immersive Design Challenge, an innovative program that empowers the next generation engineers to tackle real-world sustainability challenges through immersive hands-on learning. And with our guest, Suavi Yildirim, a Next Cycle team leader and representative of this year's winning Immersive Design Challenge team, we're going to explore how blending cutting-edge virtual reality and simulation tools with a focus on sustainable design principles helps future engineers gain invaluable experience in tackling complex and multifaceted problems. So, Suavi, we are thrilled to welcome you to the show. I know that you're a passionate person and a leader of Next Cycle, this year's winning team, and saw through that process you demonstrate how immersive engineering tools like VR, HR, and head-mounted displays and digital twins can revolutionize sustainable design. But hey, we want to get to know you first. So, have you always wanted to work with sustainability?
Oh,
Tell me a little bit about your engineering journey.
that's a great question to start. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, and I hope my journey resonates with the listeners. So, I'm Suabi. As I said, I'm a currently master's student at FAU Erlangen-Nürnberg, studying autonomy technologies. I completed my bachelor's back then in mechanical engineering, and I've always been curious about how things work and how we can improve them in a way that especially more thoughtful and environmentally responsible, I would say. So I first became aware of the sustainability concept as a core engineering back in 2017 when I started my bachelor's, and I was introduced to the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, as you might know. Um, so that shifted my mindset and so I learned that engineering was not just about machines or materials. It's about shaping systems that are responsible and future proof. So when I saw that Siemens was organizing a challenge, especially focused on immersive design and sustainability, it really caught my interest. And I wanted to use the new technology to develop real world solutions that could work well in business and industry. So I think the Siemens Immersive Design Challenge was such a huge but valuable opportunity for us, and I think we made the most of it.
I like that phrase, future proof. I think that's certainly something we're trying to do to future proof the future workforce. Hey, let's go back a little bit further in time, though. I'm always curious what or who may have motivated you to pursue studying engineering.
Oh, you know, I was grew up in a um, teacher family, so my especially my mom, she's a teacher in STEM, and I've always been interested in stuff and how uh, those um, those kind of mechanism works, and that's why I chose mechanical engineering. That's why I believe it's one of the most fundamental engineering concepts. So that was a brief journey.
I am sure she is very proud.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about the role of immersive tools in sustainable engineering. And so your project was called Battery Twin XR. I know it impressed the jury, but it showcased this potential for reducing waste and improving efficiency in the EV battery industry. So wanted to just have you share a little bit. You know, this was a really wide scaled and scope challenge that had 900 participants in I think 38 countries. Can you share a little bit about your team's vision and how it came together for specifically that solution around a battery twin XR?
Yeah, exactly. So we wanted to come up with a solution that, as a team, that addresses real world problems in today's industry. So the switch from combustion vehicles to electrical vehicles has been happening really fast in recent years, and as Siemens is a huge key player in battery technologies and infrastructure systems, we thought creating something around EV battery ecosystem EV battery life cycle would really resonate. And what makes our project differentiates from other project I think that we have a great B2B business model that would be an example, I believe. So um, that's how Battery Twin XR was born, and it's a solution that could be integrated into existing CMS projects, and it might serve as a strong B2B use case, I believe. Not only for battery recycling project, but as well as different kind of factory layouts.
Yeah, I think it's great when we can cross over into other use cases and other industries.
Mhm.
Now you used Swabi, the team used Siemens NX Immersive Designer and Sony's XR headset to simulate right these EV battery life cycles. Share a little bit more about how the tools enabled your team to prototype sustainable solutions, more efficiently or effectively than the traditional methods.
Yeah. So, the 3D simulation and design environment in Siemens NX Immersive Designer, combined with the Sony's revolutionary XR headset, they allowed us to see our CAD models in real time, and it was really intuitive to interact with them naturally. So, in my opinion, that level of immersion really reduces development time and design iteration cycles because you can catch design flows early on and make faster decisions. Um, so I believe it's especially powerful when designing something complex like a factory layout. You can basically walk through it, understand the space better, and make more efficient design choices. I believe this is not only saves time, but also cost. Also supports sustainability by reducing material waste and energy use in the design and production processes. For us, I think that was a real game changer part.
Yeah, so for you shared a little bit about time and cost, and love to see those kind of savings.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit more about these digital twins. They're often referred to as this risk-free sandbox, so you can innovate. Can you share a little bit more about what's an example of having that visual, iterative testing in that VR setting? Did it lead to a certain breakthrough in your design through the process?
Yeah, during our development processes, we use the virtual reality environment to test different layouts for the battery recycling factory. For example, in 2D or on a regular screen, it's hard to see how the machines and people would move and interact. But in VR environment, we quickly saw that our first layout had safety and space issues, for example. Especially the workspace of the robots is much easier to understand and see in a 2D environment. Um, I think it's really great example application. So we changed our design accordingly, and we adjusted the positions, improved the workflow, and reduced material handling paths as well. So this would have taken much longer with traditional methods. For example, the immersive testing helped us reach a more efficient and safer design much faster, as well as it's a key for sustainability, which because it avoids costly mistakes and waste in real production, I would say.
So, Swavi, did you have prior experience using VR headsets before?
Yeah, I have had a little experience in my previous lab, but I was not so uh, I didn't have so much hands-on experience. But during the development process for this competition, I bought a VR headset
Mm.
just to try my project in the VR headset before we will be going to the we will go to and try with the Sony XR headset, and we use some video footage with the uh, headset I bought, and I think that was a great example that our team was capable of moving forward with immersive engineering tools. Yeah, so yeah, a little bit
Yeah.
experience.
So, one of the things we find with some of these challenges, Swavi, is there may be a team of engineers over time. There may be teams that have marketing and business people as well that help kind of figure out the business use case. I'm curious if you see, immersive engineering tools like this, can they help us democratize kind of that access to sustainable design education and get more
Mhm.
students across the ecosystem to think about this differently?
Yeah. So, in my opinion, I think the immersive design tools have huge potential to democratize sustainable design education because they are very intuitive. So, even students without CAD or VR experience can start exploring and understanding systems right away. So, this hands on visual approach makes learning more engaging and accessible, especially in places where traditional tools or training might not be so common, so available. So, it's a great way to build confidence, creativity, and a real understanding of a sustainable design, I would say.
You think we can use it to recruit even more future Swabies, other students who maybe didn't have a mom to suggest they go into this space? Do you think it's something that could really ignite younger students to consider engineering?
Yeah, I think so. It's a really exciting topic, and from I can see my LinkedIn posts, there are many engagements around the immersive engineering topic, and young people are especially interested in.
Great. Well, let's talk a little bit now about cross-disciplinary collaboration. You know, this challenge required teams to really address that interconnectivity across energy, transportation, manufacturing. You had a pretty diverse team. I guess I'm curious about the skill sets that kind of came together
Mhm.
to really contribute to trying to solve a complex problem.
Yeah. So as you said, since the challenge covers areas like our project covered areas like energy, transportation, manufacturing. So having knowledge in different fields really helps. Personally, my background in mechanical engineering and robotics, yeah, allowed me to focus on system behavior and layout design. While my other teammates, my colleagues, they were more contributing their insights from data analytics, for example, software and digital twin integration. Personally, I always love working in multidisciplinary teams, and I think this mix helped us design a solution that connects the physical and digital worlds, making it more relevant for real industrial use cases.
I guess, Swabi, you know, you're a student engineer in this. I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more about how you think, what are some strategies we could do to really help even educators foster this mindset in students?
Mhm. So we kept sustainability central by considering how every design choice affects resource use and waste. For example, the NX includes sustainable tools that help analyze factors like energy consumption, carbon footprint, and material impact during the design phase. So using these tools, we could evaluate different design options to choose the most eco-friendly solutions, for example. So in that regards, to foster this mindset in students, educators should integrate such tools into their projects, and um, it could be nice to encourage students to think um, how to help students understand how engineering decisions impact the whole product life cycle, not just the individual parts, I would say.
Have there been other experiences you've had, Swabi, that your teachers kind of bringing in these real world use cases into the classroom that resonate?
Yeah, for example, during my bachelor's, I think my I was a little luckier. My university is like more hands-on based education system. We had many labs, and yeah, I think for example, as a mechanical engineer, you are learning how to weld and this kind of how to use a 3D printer just when you are the first grader. So I think these kind of hands-on experiences are becoming more and more important rather than only theoretical education.
Yeah. We always say it's kind of a real world is where the rubber hits the road. And I guess I'm curious, you know, when we look at industry partnerships that play a role in this, you had Siemens experts, you had Sony experts that were mentoring along the way. How did they really shape how you approach this and some of the, you know, what did you learn from them?
So I think mentorships from CMAS experts was really valuable, and working with CMAS engineers was really the highlight of our experience, I would say. they helped us understand real world constraints, engineering constraints like cost, manufacturability, and timelines, things that are often hard to grasp in a purely academic setting, you know. So their guidance, I think, pushed us to think beyond just the ideal design and focus on practical, scalable solutions that can work in industry. So I think this insight was crucial in shaping our project into a concept that is not only innovative but also applicable for real world applications.
Yes, let's talk a little bit more. I mean, we've touched on this briefly, Swavi, but I want to talk a little bit more, impress maybe more on how we instill that sustainability mindset in future engineers. You know, at times, from my experience, it's often treated as an add-on rather than a core principle. And I'm curious how this challenge, you know, and along with it, I know many actually took the sustainability credential that we developed with University of Colorado Boulder. Tell me how the challenge and maybe that access to some of that online learning and credential opportunities, um, did that change your thinking and how you try to integrate some of what you were learning along the way in your solution?
Mhm. Um, in my opinion, sustainability was at the heart of everything we did since the beginning of the project development progress. And right from the beginning, like we use immersive tools to see how our choices affected resources, waste, and energy. As I said, there is a tool in Siemens NX that you can explore the sustainability impact of your solution. So that way, we could make changes early on and make sure sustainability was part of our project's design, not just something we added at the end. Um, and for the micro credentials, I think there are really great resources out there. For example, while working on the challenge, I discovered that Siemens offers many courses on Coursera about uh, circular economy, sustainability, and within the collaboration with the University of Colorado Boulder, as you said. And I found these micro credentials really valuable because they provide a balanced view, not just from academic settings, but with the industry partnership. You know, so I think it's great to see Siemens partnering with universities like this, and these kinds of collaborations help, help learners connect theory with practice, which is essential for preparing future engineers, in my opinion.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about that micro credential since you mentioned the circular economy one. Um, you know, we do see these credentials really, you know, there's a pull for from the employer side of things, right? They're really looking at skills-based hiring and how to identify that you've got the skills. And I think certainly hearing about your experience through a, you know, global challenge like this is one example, and taking additional, you know, content and credentials. But as you went through that micro credential, anything that you want to share that really stood out to you that you learned from it? I know it also has, you know, subject matter experts from across Siemens and maybe some of our customers. Anything else that you really picked up unique in that setting?
Uh-huh. So I think uh, I've been following two main courses in Coursera from Siemens. One of them was about NX, and the other was for within the collaboration with UCB. Um, so I think uh, uh, there are many things that you can develop yourselves, especially not just only like climate change and other things. Um, as a student, you are getting aware of these concepts of climate change, global impacts of those kind of systems, and I strongly believe that students should be open to opportunities outside of their regular courses, like as a student, also as a engineer, some sort of experience in the industry. I always try to follow my passion, not not to limit myself in my regular coursework. I always try to follow like edX and Coursera, and I think that's great opportunity for students in, in that field.
Yeah, we
Hi.
find it's, you know, interesting to see the learners that come to this kind of content. They're not only students like yourself, but also, people in the workforce reskilling that really want to try to understand that circular economy. So I think it's interesting to think about Swabi, having kind of that online learning and getting that mindset, strengthened around sustainability, and then having the tools right there within NX. Um, Share a little bit more, I guess, did you, as you were going through the process, right, of coming up with your solution, did you go back and consult some of that learning content? Was it just fresh in your mind as you now saw it play out in a tool like NX? Tell me how you kind of marry a little bit of the mindset with the tool
Mhm.
skill set.
Yeah, I think it's just always back and forth. Like you always you always want to imply what you learn to your project, and I think yeah, following the UCB course was really enlightening for myself because yeah, I mean, as a student, you don't have to have always real life explanations of those things. So it's the courses provided by Siemens and UCB. I think they are such a great example of and industry and academia partnership. And as a student, we can get benefited from them, I would say.
Any barriers that you think students face when, they're trying to advocate now for these sustainable practices that they're getting exposed to? And, did you see ways that maybe the challenge or
Mhm.
challenges like this can address that?
Yeah, I think one of the main barriers is that traditional engineering programs, for example, they focus heavily on technical skills, and sustainability can feel like an extra or less important topic. Um, so without the practical experience, as I said, it's hard for students to see how sustainability fits into real engineering. Um, so during my bachelor's years, I think my university was more open to updating their curriculum. Like I remember there were some courses on ethics in artificial intelligence, for example, also like the new trends in sustainability. So I think programs like the Immersive Design Challenge take this even further by fully integrating sustainability into hands-on projects, which eventually helps students understand how technical skills and sustainable thinking work together in real-world solutions.
Yeah, those are great skills. And I'd like to expand a little bit on when you think about, companies like ours and many of our customers, they really prioritize Suave the skills around systems thinking and adaptability. And I'm just curious in this immersive design challenge, um, how did participating in it, do you think, prepare you for, evolving to some of those changing demands?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the immersive design challenge was a valuable lesson in systems thinking and adaptability. Early on, we had to revise our design multiple times as new challenges arose and feedback. We received feedbacks from our mentors. So while it was initially challenging, it taught me the importance of embracing flexibility and understanding how different parts of system interact, and I think that this experience as a whole gave me practical perspective on real world engineering and showed me how to approach complex problems thoughtfully and iteratively, I would say.
So we've been talking a little bit about, the mindset, right, with sustainability and the skill set with these tools. I'm curious in this kind of collaborative setting, you had a team. Did
Mhm.
everybody agree along the way? Did you have any challenges where, maybe you had to fight for your idea or challenge a colleague? Just curious about some of the interactions between your team.
Yeah, within a team, you always have some arguments and some discussions, but I think this is the what's making the ideas move forward. And I think as a team of three, we were not, how can I say, you know, as when the member of the teams are less, I think there are less collisions between the ideas. So I think we had a good teamwork, and yeah, at the end, actually, it was funny in the final during the final presentations, we had a huge problem. Actually, two out of three. team members, they had a final exam at that day.
Oh, wow.
In the morning, one of my team members, my colleague Uğur, he just had the exam, and afterwards he immediately joined the final presentation. But my other teammate, unfortunately, Elif, she couldn't be able to attend the presentation because she her the timing was collided between her exam. But yeah, we made a video recording of her and tried to incorporate her footage somehow. It was funny, but
Yeah.
I I don't think it was affecting our project in a negative way. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's always like you are learning along the way. I think it's not the destination but the journey. So you always learn and improve.
I love that. It's not the destination, but the journey. And you said collision of ideas. I think collision is a good thing, right? It drives more innovation and challenges us, right, to challenge each
Mhm.
other.
Exactly.
Um, so we've been talking about these experiences and these credentials that are outside of your traditional classroom, although you came to it with, I think, colleagues from your classroom. What do you see, Swavi, as you look out and or maybe have advice for younger student engineers?
Uh-huh.
Do the traditional degrees, do you think they become less relevant?
I think that's a huge controversial topic. Uh, from my personal perspective as a student during the pandemic times, I think I actually think that pandemic showed us that we need to rethink maybe the whole education system and infrastructure because nowadays information is so easy to access online that the role of universities maybe should shift more toward providing more hands-on experiences instead of just relying on theory. For example, I can take the same course and watch lectures from the top professors at MIT uh, rather than from my own professors. Um, or I can look for other leading schools for free online. So students might question why they should pay high fees for a traditional university experience, I think. So we are already seeing micro credentials and online certificates gaining more value compared to some generic university degrees. In my opinion, this is a really clear sign of transformation, and I believe in the future, online education will become much bigger parts, as I can see.
I think that you saying that is a sign of transformation. We see that now, but we do also see, we just announced ABET recognizing this first, circular economy micro credential with UC
Mhm.
Boulder. And, I believe that is possibly the path to change, right, for engineering education institutions to really look at their curriculum and try to build in, much more of this experiential learning, real world use cases. It's probably the top request we get from educators is provide annually new use cases that allow us to really evolve our curriculum and keep it up to date, and I think help upskill them as well. Just curious if there's any other ideas on your mind, for either the educators or, I guess, advice you have for students as they look at trying to balance that, the rigor you really do need from some of that traditional learning model and augmenting it with additional, technical expertise, online learning opportunities, experiences.
Mhm.
Just, yeah, share a little bit about your thoughts.
So yeah, from student to student. So my advice would be prioritizing their passion. So when you are genuinely interested in something, whether it's sustainability or a specific technical skill, you are more motivated to keep learning and improving yourself. Also, I think trying to seeing the bigger picture is important, like how your technical work can contribute to sustainable solutions. I think finding that balance takes time, but I believe staying curious and committed will guide you in becoming both a strong engineer and hopefully a sustainability leader.
Stay curious. I love that.
Yeah.
So what's next for Swavi? Tell me a little bit about what you think's happening on your journey coming up, and what would be the dream job for you after all this?
Oh, that's a great question. Uh, just the next month, I'm so excited to attend Realize Live conference
Oh,
in
great.
Amsterdam. I think that will be a great experience for our team. Um, and I believe for my future employer, I would like to say maybe a few things. Like, I don't have a specific company that I like to work in. Like, of course, I would like to be part of Siemens and contribute to development in immersive engineering. But like in general, the next generation of engineers, I think they will expect more like an environment that encourages continuous learning and innovation, especially in areas like getting more important like sustainability. And in my case, I am really interested in immersive engineering. I value, for example, open communication and teamwork, and where diverse ideas are welcomed and collaboration drives a real impact. It's important for me to work for a company that not only focuses on technical excellence, but also shares a strong commitment to making a positive difference in the world. I think that's also huge important.
That's great, Swavi. So if any of our customers or partners are listening and going to be at Realize Live in Amsterdam, you just heard a little bit about this student engineer's passion that he prioritizes. And so maybe there'll be some recruiting opportunities there, Swavi.
Looking forward to connect. Thank you.
That's great. All right. Well, Swavi, thank you for sharing, your groundbreaking work on this battery XR solution and really your insights into both the current and I think the future state of engineering education. Your team's success in the Immersive Design Challenge, it's a true testament to, the power of really blending innovation, collaboration, and sustainability. So listeners, check the show notes for links to Swavi's LinkedIn and some other resources about the challenge we'll be sharing. And join us next time on Engineering the Future Workforce.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Engineering the Future Workforce. The show notes include links to any resources mentioned in today's show. If you're enjoying our podcast, please subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave us a 5-star review.